Well, we may as well get into it. GM, one and all. Oh, I should probably share my screen. Let's start with that. All right. GM, one and all. This is our weekly all-team tactical. We're going to use this time to think up on work going on around our org, eliminate blockers, and prioritize work. On the lag metric side, we have 333.47 transaction volume, so that's plus 190 from last week. We have 3 weekly transacting users. We have 1 new user, and we have 6 communities deployed. So these are the metrics that we're trying to optimize for in the hopes that they increase our transaction volumes. In team-wide announcements, we need to run a joke race. Any ideas? Well, if you do have them, or if you don't have any, think of at least one while we're going through this, because this is a discussion item further down. I have a couple of ideas myself, but if you don't know what joke race is, we will have a little discussion about it below. And the Octant Accelerator is ongoing.
Oh, I see in the chat. Yeah, can't hear you, Lynx.
Yeah,
You
just
can hear me?
Now you're back.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we heard you right as you cut out too, or right as you dropped.
I hear you.
Strange. Discord does weird things. What was the last thing you heard me say?
I asked you what were your thoughts behind doing a joke race, and I didn't hear any response.
Okay, so the reason why we need to do a joke race is just because that's part of the Octant Accelerator. If I'm being honest, and this is a public forum, I think like joke race in general, it's there's lots of other ways we could do it to get the same kind of results. But that being said, maybe the product itself is super good, and we just have to kind of try it and see if people get into it. Essentially, the way joke race works is you pay for votes, and then typically the winner gets like half of the money from the votes, and the other half goes to joke race. So
right, and so within that though, like what would be your thoughts to utilize joke base to move BCard forward? Like what kind of output would you like from that?
I mean, so if I'm being honest, it's because we have to do it for the accelerator that we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, but I think we can use it for something like a contest for a new card image. And if Thinker worked on a bunch of OMF card images, like Open Medicine Foundation, and he wasn't super happy with his output, maybe we could just get like crowdsourcing a bunch of card images and give the best one some GLM token. I think the GLM token, personally, to me, I think the GLM token's a big draw. Because we have that to give out. But other than that, I mean, we could use it for other things, but it is really like an on-chain product, right? And so I would much rather have like a really open thing where it's just like whether or not you're on-chain, you can still submit your design or something like that. Anyways, is there a reason you're asking this? I mean, we are going to have a discussion a little bit further down. If you want to marshal your thoughts, or you can just say them now.
No, I'm happy to wait. I just wanted to be able to scope in my brain like potential, I guess, not questions, but however they set up joke race. So potential themes, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just like a contest. He said that like in the session we had with him, he said the best thing that they found is when you do community versus community, because then you get like this kind of competition between communities, and it would probably appear that they get the most number of votes then. And since you're paying for votes, and joke race gets half, that's a success for them. That's a success for the contest, because half of the money from the contest is going to the winners. But if you're just a single community and you're trying to raise funds or something like that, wow, it's not as useful, because you could make twice as much money by just using some other platform or something like that. Anyways, the product itself, we might find that it is really useful, right? Like it ends up being the delivery of the value in addition to the value itself. So you can't just like look at the amount of money and be like, no, that's not quite right. But anyways, yeah, the notes for the Octant Accelerator, I suggest you check them out if you're interested. I tried to be pretty thorough, including taking screenshots as well. The reason we joined the Octant Accelerator is really around growth. Our funnel is kind of leaky, let's call it, and the reason we want to join the Octant Accelerator is to help us with that. And the last week's sessions were all about that: growing your community, growing your audiences, finding new people, figuring out your positioning, all this kind of stuff. We've done work like this in the past, but it's really the time for us to kind of dust it off as we're trying to figure it out going forward. So if you haven't checked it out, I really think you should. It probably would take you like a half hour to go through one page of notes and think about it. In terms of new members, I don't see any new members, so we're going to go straight down into the milestone perspectives. And our goal is to create revenue. Whether or not we raise money, creating revenue will help us do that. Or in the best case, we don't even need to raise any money because our revenue will be enough. We're aiming to get 10 weekly transacting users first. Oh yeah, I'm not sharing my screen. Back and forth with this, leaving to make my voice work, then my screen's not sharing. Anyways, thanks for that, Winverse. I appreciate it. All right, so first off on the user interviews, Corrupted, Pineapple, I'm really trying to get the user interview with you, in fact. Are you able to meet with us potentially sometime this week?
Yeah,
Late in the week?
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I sent you, I DM'd you this morning when the meeting started because I forgot to respond. Yeah, anytime works with me, pretty much.
When's the best time to reach you? I mean, what's the best way to reach you? Is it through email or through DM?
DM's probably gonna be better. I saw your message and forgot to respond. That's all this time.
Okay, fair enough. I just need to set up a time with Zooty Bear, so I will try to figure that out.
Sounds good.
Cool. Next up, we're going to do an analysis of the results. On the community feedback side, I asked a few communities kind of informally for feedback on the IRL merch. There were basically three things I was asking for as I move forward. The big two are the kind of, do we want to create this snapshot integration to do on-chain voting? This will kind of, well, it will complete one full cycle of potential value. So as a user, you can sign in, get a card, use a card, and get rewards. What do you do with those rewards? Well, snapshot voting could be one thing that you can do with those rewards. Another potential way that you could use them is to redeem them for merch or other kinds of things like that. And so I was asking about snapshot voting and in real life merch. I asked a couple communities about it. In general, everyone is only somewhat interested. And the reason for that is because a lot of them have had experience with merch before, and it was very difficult for them. One of the issues that they had was they had to kind of buy up front, and they lost money on the deal because they couldn't sell as much merch as they wanted. Well, if we use an on-demand print provider, this won't be an issue. Another thing that they had an issue with was shipping was just nuts. One story someone had was it was like a $30 hat and $40 of shipping. And they said that that's just not great. Well, if we get the right merch provider, they actually have local like local partnerships in every single country, not every single, but in every single region, let's say, which could reduce shipping costs by quite a bit. This remains to be seen. I actually haven't done enough research on the shipping. And so ultimately, these are problems that we can actually solve. So we'll see. I don't know for sure if that's the way that we're going to go, but it is something to share that we got this feedback from some communities. On the rewards flow side, I did run the September reconciliation, and we talked a little bit about that at the Octane Accelerator last week. It's kind of boring. I mean, lots of people in this space love numbers, and the way that we have the numbers, it's just not very inspiring. So we could probably spiffy that up a little, and we'll see for the October rewards reconciliation. On the user analytics side, I have one last query to add to the dashboard, and then we're going to get into the lifecycle emails, grade and deny. The lifecycle emails are probably our top priority from a product perspective. The reason for this is essentially, well, our funnel's leaky, and we can, first of all, re-engage existing users with something with like a monthly kind of statement. So essentially, every month when you're getting a credit card, you get a monthly statement. With BCard, we can do that and tell people that they have rewards. We can tell them what their balance is, all these other things. I think I explained it last week, so I'm not going to get too into it. And then on the other side of the funnel, closer to the top of the funnel, we have lots of users who sign up for a card and then never fill it with anything. They never put a single dollar on it. And so we could probably help them by poking them and saying like, hey, do you know how to do this? Can we help? Do you want to email us? Do you want to talk to us on Discord? Or do you want to read the support article? So that's what I'm talking about when I say lifecycle emails, and that should really help us kind of tighten our funnel a little bit. And in the best case, it will get us some feedback a little bit sooner. In terms of new users, we're aiming to get 10 new users a week. We're at 1 right now. I have been posting on X sporadically. It does work. In general, it gets us more followers, views, and engagement, right? Like that's just like a, you post more, you get more engagement. It's just
Seconded.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
And I'll share my screen again. Yeah. Geez, what's the last thing you heard me say?
Posting on X, engagement leads to engagement.
Yeah. The only problem is I don't really like posting on X. It's not really that fun for me. I do post on Farcaster quite a bit more. And so like I guess I think we still do need to post on X, and I wonder if it's going to be one of our main channels. I mean, if it's me posting on all the channels, I might focus on Farcaster and LinkedIn a little bit more. Farcaster for like kind of early stage users, and LinkedIn for communities. That being said, that remains to be seen. I could probably force myself to do a couple minutes a day on X. I just need to get into a groove. We also had some advice on how to 3x every piece of content that we create, which could be interesting for us. A little bit of that on discussion below. We have some work to do around positioning and content plan this week. Knock on wood. I started it last week and the week before, but never really finished it. But this week it's due. So I had to get it done for the Octant Accelerator. We also need to run a joke race. I mentioned last week that the joke race that we were part of as a participant, it wasn't really a priority for us to win in any way, shape, or form. It was really just a priority for us to kind of get like to try a little bit. I feel like it's the same with this joke race. It's not a priority for us to win, to like really have like the best joke race. A bigger priority for us would be to ship like a couple new communities or something like that. That being said, or figure out our positioning and our strategy around our communication. Even doing our email funnels, I think, are more important. That being said, it is part of the accelerator, so we got to do it. Anything else on the 10 new users a week? I see Rainus isn't here. I know that he's been working on it at his new job, and Coffee Crush is not here either. So I don't think there's much coming from them. Although we did last week get a couple of announcements out for the joke race that we were in. Actually, I don't know what our current. Let me just pop that open. Actually, where is that joke race from the previous week? And let's see how we're doing. All right. So Dragon Academy is first, and a lot of these they have 532 votes. Well, people are voting at 100 times each. So we're in fourth place with 179 votes. Actually, it's pretty good. Actually, it's not bad at all. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and take a look. Let's take. We have about 2 hours left, 2 hours and 40 minutes left to see. But yeah, I have to connect my wallet to see the votes. So I'm not quite sure who voted for us, but yeah, not doing so bad actually. All things considered. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and take a look. It does cost 25 cents roughly to vote, and you have to have some base ETH to do it. But take a peek if you haven't seen a joke race before, especially if we want to run a joke race. All right, and we have some launch announcements coming up for our communication team as well, related to Pool Together and some other communities as well. We have 10 high quality communities. So we have a bunch of communities unblocked. I just need to write tasks for them so Tom can actually execute on them. We even have NF Thinker created some kind of starting OMF cards, which I will send to OMF today. Tom, I'm going to write the task for OMF at least today. I had meant to write it on Friday, but I didn't do it yet. I think we have all the information that we need to execute on it now, and it would be great to get it out before the end of the Octant Accelerator. Yeah, so that's something that we need to do as well. And we also have the card for purple. So these are kind of the priorities for our communities. If I can get all three of these done, OMF, purple, and BCard, the task for them, if I just take an hour and get them all written up and all the assets in place, then hopefully we will be able to move forward on those. Make sense, Tom?
Sounds good. Should be easy.
Cool. All right, into our task perspective. Try to keep this quick to leave some time for our discussion. ISO week 42. All right, great. Okay, October patron email. I actually do need to get this out. I will put it into. Honestly, it's probably not going to happen this week, so I'll just put it a little bit lower than this. But next week I got to do it for sure. And so we'll work on that. So I think it was me and Tom who spent 10 hours a week on BCard. We're going to be changing the way that this works, but I'm just going to move this away from that for now and stick it into the inbox in the accounting section. All right. September rewards flow, that's done. Woohoo. Farcaster frame, that's done. So we did get, a good amount of people, at least like between 10 and 20 people, I would say, who used our frame. We didn't actually create any analytics, so I just did a search on Farcaster for anyone using BCard. And then as well, anytime anyone had questions, I would kind of answer those questions as well. So it was a nice little, let's say, awareness campaign. But I wouldn't say that it got us a ton of new users. Those 2 new users that we got over the last week and a half could be from that Farcaster frame. But it's hard for us to say because we don't have good attribution in place there. The Sunny Awards and Dow Spring Grants, I kind of put them on the back burner for now, just because my time is mainly filled up with the Octant Accelerator. Open Medicine Foundation, I put this at the top of the list here because I do think it's important for us to get that out. I already mentioned what I need to do from them, and if Thinker already created that card design as well, so that was great. On the lifecycle email side, well, Gradient said he couldn't make it today. I'm going to try to book some time with him so that we can go through this, or maybe async go through it. In general, he did some research on what Mailjet provides. And yeah, Mailjet, while it's not like super polished, it does provide kind of all of the tools that we need, including things like email funnels where you add someone to an email list and they then get they're signed up for like a series of emails over the first week. And so, yeah, we're probably going to be splitting up that task into 2. On the joke race side of things, okay, we entered a joke race. We have sent an email to your users. That's done. We have post on socials. Yeah, that's done. We probably should post right after this on X as well. But in general, this is done. Now we need to run a joke race. Anyone feel like running a joke race?
I won't say yes with full confidence because I'm not entirely sure I understand it yet, but I'm interested at least.
Okay, cool. So do you know what joke race is?
I got the premise of it. We can create some kind of competition. Users submit things. I'm mostly going off of the card art example.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, we can make some kind of competition where users can compete and vote.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you can see here, like, it's basically this, right? And I will be honest in that I'm not a huge fan of the UI of this. Anyways. But in general, this is it. Like, you create a contest with some explanation. There's some parameters which are kind of like what the timing is.
But it looks like you can do like as complex as submit some art and pick your favorite art piece to build apps and build the best app.
Exactly. Yeah. So this one was for impact apps or something like that. And you can see like there is, like 0.1 ETH, 0.2 ETH up for grabs here.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're interested, we can kind of connect on this a little bit later, but we're going to have a discussion about it a little bit further down. Here, we haven't had a meme contest, no. But that could be one if we have the right kind of direction. That could be something that would be useful or interesting, engaging.
Are the other people in that joke race the other Octant Accelerator participants, or are they just randomly other app folks?
It's mainly other Octant Accelerator participants.
Right. I was wondering. I thought that might be the case.
Yeah, there are others as well in here too, but yeah, it's mainly all of these are like all the top ones are in that accelerator. So yeah. Anywho.
Links. One quick note on meme contests. I think like part of the meta around memetics, right, is that you don't want to direct people too much because you want to get a sense of like where the natural center is for, the meme in space and time. And so I don't know. I think it would be interesting to run one, but then actually not provide that much direction, and you get a better sense of where people's brain are around BCard.
So I legit think we should too, and then I would also say that like, I would rather run that on something like Farcaster or Twitter because there's way less friction for people doing it.
1000%. Like I don't think it's appropriate for Joke Race because Joke Race is still so niche-y, right? But I think Twitter would be the thing. I also think Farcaster is like a pretty closed community still, so I think that X is your place to go.
Yeah, I think like running it on X and maybe potentially running it like simultaneously on Farcaster, like, and also just like saying like, hey, this is what X is coming up with. Can you guys do better? Kind of thing.
Exactly, and I think like that would be interesting just from maybe like an A/B testing standpoint about like the communities and how they're similar or different, right? Because maybe the thesis is wrong and they're not as dissimilar as I think they are.
Yeah. Anyway, something to discuss for sure. I do think we could run a couple more meme contests. And your verbiage around finding the center of the meme is interesting as well. But yes, okay. So run Joke Race Corrupted. We'll figure that out. Another thing I have to do is plan a pizza party in Toronto. So this is another assignment that I need to do. Success criteria. Run a pizza party in Toronto. This is one of those things that I got to get done, but I'm not going to really do that well. It's just, yeah. Well, at least it is sponsored, which is nice. So we get like $200 to run a pizza party. So I guess it's gonna be free pizza for anyone who's in Toronto. Yes, and so we shall go from there. So that is something I also want to get done this week. User interviews. Hopefully, we have our last one with Corrupted this week. User analytics. I literally have one last query to put up on the dashboard. The October patron email. I mentioned that I want to get it done next week. The partnership pitch deck. Well, I don't know if Rainis had a chance to do this. Rainis, did you have a chance to work on this? Christy, I know that we said that we would push the contributor awards and payroll off. Have you had a chance to look at it since last week?
No, well, I haven't even. This was the before this call was the first time I looked at Discord since I got back from Utah.
Yeah, fair enough. I figured that since you were traveling and like that's why we kind of said last week that we were just not gonna work on it. Let me just double check my schedule for tomorrow and see if I have that slot open. And I don't. Yeah. So tomorrow I will be again busy during the ops meeting. But are there specific, like, are you blocked or have you just not had a chance to take a look at it?
No, so what I just need to like review and like and do something and then get feedback or see if I run into any questions on the process.
Okay. So as of now, next week is the last time that I'll be busy during the Thursday time slot. So maybe just over the next week you can do something async, and we can book some time next week if you figure out where we're missing stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Another thing I need to add to here, actually, which I think is pretty high priority, is come up with a demo for Octant Demo Day. So I have about a week to figure this out. It is next week on the 24th. I probably need to run a couple pitches and stuff too. The criteria, come up with a demo, create visual, let's say artifacts, i.e. a working demo on staging, i.e. a deck of pictures, pitch, practice, do the actual demo and so it's like a 5-minute demo. All right, so this is something that should be taking quite a bit of my time as well. I'm gonna go ahead and pop it up to the top here. But yes, That's something I should have mentioned before. All right, great. BCard one pager. Why BCard one pager? Didn't get a chance to finish this. It is something I think around the kind of content side of things. Actually, here I thought we had a task for you on here too.
You do. You have an article in shippable shape, I think a week from Friday is what it should be.
Huh? But where did I put that? I could have sworn it was
Kind of-
here. Article.
Got an Asana ping last week,
How
so you.
Oh, here we
with
go. It was in the product weekly. That's why. That's weird. Why isn't it in all team? Okay. How fiat orgs can benefit this week. Okay, great. So I'll stick it in here as well. Put it above the pizza party. Great. And I'll actually roll the pizza party down a little bit. There we go.
I don't know,
Okay.
like, I'm just out of like the ops flow around how you guys organize work, but like within Asana, do you want me to put in like, I don't know, draft deadlines and stuff? Like, I mean, I'll have a draft to y'all on Monday, but I don't have a place to really tag that somewhere. Do you,
Usually you could
do
just
you
do it
guys
on
like that?
Discord.
Okay.
Like I would
This
put
wasn't
the draft inside this task, right? Like you don't have to have a deadline or anything, but just put the draft inside
Right.
this task somewhere. Either in the comment
Inside.
or even up top.
inside the task on Asana.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But probably no one's gonna see it if you just put it in Asana. So I would just like pop it into the team chat, and hopefully, usually anything that I need review on, I put it into the team chat, and then it's more likely that people will kind of open it and review it.
Got it. I'll just drop it in team chat and it's ready.
Sweet, thanks for that. Do you want access to our Google Docs and our Notion?
Oh, not right now. If I need them, I'll let you know.
Okay, cool. All right. Other than that, I think we are okay. On the website side, I didn't get a chance to review Bobo's work yet, so I need to take a look at that. I don't know, Andy, have you seen Bobo's work recently?
Hey, what's up? Did you ask if I've seen Bobo recently? Talk to him?
If you reviewed his work recently?
Yes. Me and a thinker were on the call, and we kind of went through the latest update of the website that he made. Basically, going through it, there's like the spacing and the fonts have been fixed, I think. Mostly, maybe I see some like a little this level in some lines, but it's like fine for now. But I would like to know, and me and I think we're thinking maybe tomorrow do a little work session on the website of like figuring out like if there are like any buttons needed for like at the top of the website, or maybe if like what web pages do we need to create more, or where they link to, and like things like that, like links in the footer, like these little final touches that need to be worked through so we can finish this website finally. So that is how far I've gotten with it, with the Bobo's last update.
Okay, great.
And yeah, and we realized that with the NF Thinker that it's going to be too early for you tomorrow, the time that we can make it. So I think I'll try to get Bobo on the call and us three figure this thing out.
Cool. Yeah, it would be super helpful if you guys are able to figure out. Also, like, we also have like a bunch of like landing page things that we can make in Mailjet too, to help us with like, I guess like we'll probably have different landing pages for different audiences, as well. All this to say that like there are other, yeah, there are other potential ways. Like we can make this like a smallish website, like as small as we can, kind of thing, and then we can like
It
kind
is
of
small,
iterate.
yeah.
Yeah, and then like we can iterate on the landing page side if we need to like do other things for like communities, and if we need to try other kinds of messaging and stuff too.
Yeah, for that is one of the things that I've noticed right now. I think at this stage it's like pretty minimal, and and I think it's not a bad thing. And we can like have all the core info in there. So okay, what do you think should be going on from this point after like what do you see?
Like, what do I see when I look at this one? Like, I'll just pop it
Yeah.
open right now if you guys want to take a look at it. But I mean, essentially, like, so this is what it looks like. And as a difference, here's our existing website, get bcard.io, right? And so it's like, it's kind of the same.
Yeah. I mean, I thought
Some
that
like it's better, right? Like it is better, right? But like,
yeah, that's what
it's,
and this is what we need to figure out is like what the hell are we doing with like the info and what do we want to show and yeah.
and so like ultimately it's like the reason why it's not a high priority to me is just because it's just like it's almost like a lateral move. Like it is better, but it's not like it's not like how it fits in our plans is not clear to me yet, right? Like I guess like one of the things that has been missing for you guys that like hasn't been set you haven't been set up for success is that we haven't really figured out what the good positioning is, what like the good messaging is that we're using, and as a result, like it ends up just being very similar. I think we're probably going to iterate on the copy and stuff like that. That being said, like the design does look nicer, but it still doesn't look like it. The design is nicer than this, but it still doesn't look like a it still doesn't look like a it still doesn't feel like it's our brand, right?
Yeah. Well, I think this is exactly what I've been like thinking, and I think that all of these problems could only be figured out if this is like a higher priority task, and we just like kind of power through it in like in a shorter amount of time. Because right now it's going just it's just like a second hand task, just going along like 1% upgrade we like very slowly.
Yeah, it's true. And I think you have something to say. I see that you're unmuted.
Yeah, I was just when you were looking for what word to say there, it's like it's missing some polish, and so it just needs a little bit of that polish. And I was thinking the lines, these lines here that you're looking at with the purple and the orange, they need almost like some texture. I think that the word I used with Andy was like they look kind of crayony. And it's not to diminish from the style or anything like that. It's just it needs that next level. So frame wise, the frames are usable. It's what kind of Zooty Bear had laid out for us. But in terms of the style, if you compare it to what Brett had originally,
here's Brett's original design, right?
Yeah, and he's got those hard lines with the gradients inside them, but somehow his hard lines work better than what the final execution has been.
Yeah, it's more opinionated. I feel like this is more opinionated than this, right? I don't know why, right? Like it's the same with this. Like the first time I saw this, I was like, well, this literally looks like every other DeFi site I've ever seen, right? And we edited it like like this kind of like purple glow, black background, this kind of like neon kind of swooshes. Like it's a lot like these kind of like edgy DeFi sites. Just like we're launching a new L2 and it's neon L2 or whatever. I feel like a lot of sites look like this, right? The thing that I think really worked with our branding, especially when I think so if I'm looking at branding, so yes, Brett's, you can see that there's like some sort of brand here, right? There's like some sort of feeling that you feel. And Hazu, I think, even got it even better with her branding, right? And we never really executed it in a great way, but ultimately, I do think that like slap in the face kind of branding, while it's true that like we do need credibility in this kind of stuff, it's also true that we need to like not be too similar to other things that people have seen in the past. I don't know. It's all of these things. It's like hard to pin down, but it's kind of, yeah. You're right, Andy. Like there's some issues in that we haven't really been prioritizing it.
Well, yeah, this is like we've just gone through like a very beginner stage in like developing an image on for a website. So I think what when we are ready to get this fast, like on a more first place basis, like sorry, my English is kind of rusty. What I'm meaning to say is just like when it's more important, when we want to finish it fast, like we should just do it. And for now on, just I don't know. Because like for me to just kind of like slowly change something a little bit, then have a meeting, then change something, it doesn't like I could be moving at much faster speed in design if we kind of had like a couple of days or a week of like focusing on a website, and it could be just be done, not like
Yeah.
very little by little. You understand,
Yes. No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we'll have to look at this a little bit more later. But for now, we'll like we can try to complete it as it is, like get out what we have, because it is an upgrade, right? Like it is an upgrade over this. And then we'll move on from there, I guess. Okay, next up on the list, well, we will go down to our what did we ship last week. So I took tons of notes for the Octant Accelerator. If you haven't taken a look, go ahead and take a look. There's some good stuff in there. I did execute on a joke race. Coffee Crusher and March created emails for it. I made a BCard brand account on Farcaster. Tom and I shipped a frame and then answered people asking questions about it. I ran the September rewards reconciliation. I started planning a pizza party. Tom shipped some updates to community analytics on the API server dashboard. Tom updated software packages and audited app client software for security. NF shipped some OMF card designs. And yeah, anything else anyone shipped that we want to put on here? All right, let's get down into the discussion items. We have about 15 minutes left. Brainstorm for the joke race contest. Okay, so we need to run a joke race. I think we have like something like 750 GLM to give out. Let me just take a peek here. What did they actually send me? Yeah, so they sent me 760 Gollum, which is about $250. But yeah, in general, it's a it's not a bad contest. It's not a bad contest output. So yeah, I guess like, what do you guys want to do for this joke race? I guess like one of the things we said was like idea, run a contest for an OMF card.
Excuse me. The first thing that comes to mind is a community contest between our card communities, and when we could maybe deploy the GLM tokens as additional reward incentives for the winning community. Something like that.
And what would the contest be?
I'm not really sure. Something like a meme contest, I think, probably is what I was thinking in my head. Something like who can come up with the funniest meme per community. Because it would incentivize a lot of contribution from a lot of different communities members. Like they could be, each community member could be incentivized to submit their own submission, right? And then the victor of amongst all communities will be the one that will win for their community, I guess.
Yeah, legit. I guess like the one thing that worries me is the amount of coordination that will be involved between communities. Because to make it real successful, we would need to get communities to actually tell their people. So which means we need to show up at their community calls, try to get it into their socials. And honestly, this has been the hard part so far. I do think it's a good idea because it leverages that whole community versus community thing. But yeah, the one difficult part would be the coordination involved. maybe one way we could do it is if we don't have, if we want to kind of reduce that, we could just say like come up with a card image for your dream community, like whatever community, not just our communities, but any community.
I think like memes and art is good, but I feel like there is a barrier to entry to that. Like I'm not a visual artist by any means. Something maybe more written based, a writing prompt, if that's a thing. Like what would you do if you had $1 million? That's an easy example of something more crypto related.
Yep.
Always,
Then people. Go ahead.
I've always found with like the kind of community building writing contests is like haikus are the easiest hack ever for that stuff, right? Because it's just like
That could be a good one.
really, it's really low sort of
Barrier to
what am I? Yeah, thank you. Barrier to entry, exactly. And everybody knows what a haiku is, even if they don't know it's 575. It doesn't really matter if they get that right, but like it doesn't put fear in people, right? Like writing, like what would you do with $1 million? People tense up, right? But oh god, I don't know, man. But when you have to write a haiku, like I don't know, it just seems to me that people are way more favorable to that type of writing because the stakes are a lot lower.
Yeah, I know the purpose of the joke race is more as a requirement to the accelerant or to the accelerator, but if we still want to approach this the way I think we should, we want high levels of engagement if possible. So writing prompt versus image creation, I think, is more, like we said, lower barrier to entry. And haiku sounds like an amazing idea.
Yeah, that sounds great. Would we have a theme for the haiku, or is it kind of just like write a haiku about BCard, write a haiku about TradFi? What's
I mean,
the?
we could also keep it community versus community and say write a haiku to describe your community. Make a tagline for your community in the form of a haiku.
Oh yeah, that could work.
Definitely keep it community themed. I would also second the fact that writing is better than image generation, and haiku is probably the height of that. Easy to participate. Also, way easier to judge because reading through 10 haikus is a lot easier than reading through 10 500-word thought pieces. And in terms, like just in general, in terms of competitions with any sort of design competition, they get very hard to sort of mediate. I saw a really good meme yesterday that was vote on what's harder. Is it harder to pee with a boner or harder to give birth? And the top answer was harder to pee with a boner. So that's just a really sort of tongue-in-cheek way of saying like the people voting aren't necessarily always the best people to vote on what a good design is. It's far more subjective than something like a haiku. So in general, I would tend to steer away from design competitions, even though I know it did work well for Puli. But yeah, second the haiku.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna run any other suggestions, ideas? Do we have kind of consensus around running a haiku contest? Okay, cool. And like, would we want to like open this up to any community? Sorry, Christy, I noticed you just unmuted for a second there.
Yeah, I was just going to agree, but yeah, it was also, so I guess I'm assuming the turnaround time for the whole thing is like a week, or like including putting the submissions in and the voting.
Yeah, we'd want to do it. We'd want it done by like, in a week roughly. Like we'd want it done before the end of next week. The end of next week is when the
I think
the
the
thing
deadline
is.
is pre the 23rd, October 23rd, I believe.
Yeah, so we want to run it ASAP kind of thing.
Yeah, and then I guess my other contest is I think we should keep it open because I think one of the objectives is to like raise awareness and get more than the existing communities involved. So like if
Definitely.
there was some way to make it so that it's relevant for both existing communities plus potential new communities.
Yeah.
Plus, if we
Yeah.
don't limit it to just our communities, we can post the contest on X or Farcaster and also Joke Race. Like you mentioned earlier, like we can start the competition over on X because there's more users there, and throw it at Joke Race to see if like more people try to engage.
Cool. And I feel like there's another. So open to any community. Write a haiku. And the prize is going to be GLM. We have 760. Do you want to do something like 50% to first place, that kind of thing? Like,
I think if you're going to open it to any community, you make the community or somebody fill in the application form first.
I don't think we can do that on Joke Race, actually.
I was thinking actually in terms of distributing the rewards out, it could kind of be like a second phase contest as well too. So if your community, let's just say Nouns, wins the contest, then the prize amount of Golem token is distributed proportionally to the spenders in that community for the subsequent month of rewards. So at the tail of the month, sort of, it's like, oh yeah, just like evenly, like if it's only like 10 people and they each spend $100, it'd be evenly distributed, 10% each, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I think we could like announce that at like after the contest too, right? Like, hey, turns out Nouns won. Everyone is going to get an additional like Nog bonus. Just like no matter what community you're in or something like that. I don't know, something like that, because we do have Nogs. But I think that's something that we can announce later. It's just like another announcement to throw on socials to just be like, anyone who participated gets X. I don't know. Anyways, it's a good idea.
I think the problem there is if we do open it up to any community and they aren't already a part of the card or sort of in the process of getting into the card, the distribution of rewards is lost on them. So you're right, maybe hold off the announcement of how that's going to be distributed to later, and then maybe use that as a way to incentivize those communities to join up.
Yeah, and as well, let me make it clear as well that I would love to see you guys, everyone in here. Like, I'll definitely post a haiku myself, but I would love to see all of you post haikus as well. And Golem tokens, if you guys don't know what they are, Golem is how they kind of decide. So Octant, this accelerator that we're going through, they staked 100,000 ETH, and every quarter they give the yield of that ETH to projects that are in the kind of public good space. And so if you have Golem token, that's how you decide who gets those rewards. I'm really hoping that we can get BCard into the Octant reward pool as well. So it would be great if you guys had Golem tokens so you could vote for us, right? And so ultimately, I think that's kind of a positive sum game, this whole Golem game that we're playing. So I hope that you guys will all write haikus as well. And there's nothing in the rules that says you can't. All right. I do have to leave pretty soon. One of the things I want to talk about is, Corrupted Pineapple, maybe we should talk about this tomorrow. I'm just trying to pop open my calendar. But yeah, maybe we should talk about this tomorrow if we can, to get it kind of like going for the weekend.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Let me just double check. I will send you a DM about this, but yeah, probably tomorrow afternoon if that's okay with you. Cool. So one of the things that someone T-Pan came, I don't know, he's a pretty well-known crypto influencer. He came yesterday to discuss content with us, and he has a newsletter that he runs. And he's basically like, every piece of content that you write, like the rule of thumb is that you should repurpose it 3 times. So if you have at least three times, and he's like, for a good long form piece of content, you could repurpose it like 10 or 20 times, right? Like you could take a single paragraph and repurpose that in a bunch of different ways in a bunch of different mediums. So, for instance, we've had trouble writing long form content, and I hope Hero's going to help us with this a little. But I think even if we don't have Hero working on long form content, we do have one piece of long form content that we produce every week, which is this community call. And kind of during the community call, there are often snippets where we are talking about things that are interesting or potentially shareable. So if how this could look is, okay, Winverse, he's regularly recording this call. He posted on YouTube. That's one, right? Maybe Drost, who has been looking for something to do, isolates like a sentence or two for an audiogram. And he's been producing audiograms for what he used to be called Making Bank. I'm not sure what the name of his new podcast is. And he takes that, he turns it into audiograms, which Coffee Crusher then posts on to Twitter and Farcaster. And then Andy takes those choice quotes, those audiograms that Drost did, and he makes little images or comics for them, which we can then once again post as well. And so that's just one example of something that we can do. I know I just mentioned this because I know one, this is a piece of content that we always have. Two, Andy is looking to get better at AI image generation, and Drost is looking to do a little bit more contribution. And so that's why I was like, oh, okay, yeah, these are something we can do. But this could look other ways too, right? Like it doesn't have to look like this. But that's kind of ideas that every piece of content that we do, we can kind of 3x it. Another way to do this is if our brand account posts something on Twitter, then and NF Thinker's been doing this. NF Thinker can quote cast it and put his take on it, and then I can reply to NF Thinker's quote casting with another take on it, right? And so we've just turned one piece of content into 3 pieces of content, right? It has 3 chances to show up on someone's timeline now instead of 1. So I think like that kind of idea around, hey, how can we use our personal accounts and brand accounts more effectively? How can we take the things that we're already doing and maybe spend an extra 10 seconds on it and make it more effective for us in just distribution? I think that like that kind of 3x rule is really potentially powerful. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep,
Yes, sir.
makes sense to me. Although I'm social media naive.
Yeah, well, I mean, even you two, if you're social media naive and someone posts something, I noticed that you quote casted and you could put your take on it as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's just all a matter of attention.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one of the ways that we can do that attention is in our public section of our Discord. We have a social share on our private section of our Discord, on our team section of our Discord. I think in the public section of our Discord, as we start getting like as we start putting new things into as we start posting things on our brand account and stuff like that, we should immediately have a channel that's kind of just like, hey, react on this, quotecast this, whatever, right? And then we just sorry, I was just taking a sip of water. And then we just ping the whole team and say, hey, can you guys quotecast this when you get a chance? It's not, we don't have a lot of like team-wide pings here. So just like getting people to do that, it could be a good use of our team pinging on Discord. Does that make sense? Hello?
Yeah, links. It makes huge sense, and like, yeah, that's a great rule. And the way I always like to think about it is, at least with articles, because that's my world. But like article and thread, and then some other piece of content. In this case, I really like the idea of those audiograms. I mean, what Winverse was doing with Alan Bryce around the weekly roll up in the old days was awesome, right? And yeah, you maybe don't want a 10-minute audiogram, but 30-second clips of article of like the big meaty part of the article that gets people excited, I think is like a great use of that 3 rule.
Cool. All right, so I do need to drop off because I have an Octant accelerator thing, but I just wanted to mention one thing that I saw on Farcaster the other day. Someone was asking for recommendations on LLC. And so, I did the same thing when I was making the LLC for BCard, and I was at Stripe Atlas, and Stripe Atlas like was like it's just like the big game in town. Everyone's heard of it. If you're in Silicon Valley, everyone's using Stripe Atlas to make an LLC. So easy, right? Turns out we were just not part of their use case. Anything to do with financial technologies at all, anything to do with crypto technologies at all, we weren't part of their use case. They kind of strung us along for a couple of weeks, and then they rejected us without telling us why, really. And then there was no support number, nothing like that. And then so I reached out to a couple of other people, and Hero actually connected me with Northwest registered agents, and that's the people who, when I went through their support program, it was all people, you know, they were clearly from America, which is kind of nice in this day and age to have people who are answering the phone who are from America. And not only that, they actually researched because you know we were a non-standard case. They actually researched the law for me and figured out a way that was possible. It's not a bad thing to use the big guys only. It's just that when you do that, always we're only going to have the big guys left. And it's really a shame because those small guys are really good for us when it comes to things like customer support, things like doing that extra research, things like going the extra mile. And that is exactly the same kind of benefit that BCard could have to other people. Okay? We're never going to be a Chase or a Wells Fargo. Well, probably not, right? And so we're always going to be the little guy, especially right now, we are the little guy. And so the intent is if we're positioning ourselves against these big guys, if we are looking to do some of these big, to do other things, we should also be looking at little guys too when we're doing it. We have to kind of shop our values if we want to push forward. It's just a little note that I wanted to say, a little nugget that I was talking about on Farcaster that I think it's important enough to share here. Anyways, I'm already late. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I'll see you later.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Ciao, friends.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.